Hello, my name is André Macedo, backend developer here at GoLedger, and I'll be talking in this video about Hyperledger Fabric events and how we can make use of it using the CC-Tools framework. Well, Fabric events are messages that can be transmitted by transactions on a Fabric channel. They allow clients' applications to receive events as blocks or committed to the ledger. This application can then register for specific events and act when they are received. Thus, to make use of these events, we have to program our chaincodes to emit them, and we have to have a client application ready to receive and treat them as they are sent. To manage our chaincode to send these events, CC-Tools have an upper layer wrapper on the Fabric event functionality for easy register, management, and calling of the events. Also, on the CC-Tools demo repository, the REST server can automatically register and treat these events when called, without any need of coding by the developer. CC-Tools offer three types of events developers can register for. The log events are used to register a message on the API when received. The second type, transaction events, are able to invoke a transaction when the event is called. These transactions can be in the same channel and chaincode of the one that called the event, or also in a different channel or chaincode. Finally, custom events allow developers to code custom reactions to an event calling. Now I would like to show you a quick demonstration of a network using the event functionality. For this demo, I will simulate a library network with 4 organizations. The users are users of the library and can be registered on the channel using the CPF, which is a Brazilian identification number. The librarians can register book and update its tenant. The admins can register new libraries, and the auditors can view logs regarding the book tenant's updates. We are now at GoFabric, which is GoLedger's own platform to deploy and manage Fabric networks. Here we can see the network I just described. We have 2 channels here. In the main channel, we have the admin, librarian, and user organizations. And this is where our main chaincode is installed. We can view the main chaincode in the development interface. We can see here we have assets for person, books, and library. We can also see that we already have some persons registered in the chaincode. Now, on the second channel, we have only the admin and audit organizations. This channel features a simpler chaincode, which is only used to register all occurrences of book tenants update. So we only have the tenant log assets here. Now, we can use the events functionality to resolve some problems in our network. The first problem is, I want librarians to have a log on the system when a new library is created by the administrator. To solve this issue, I'm here on the chaincode where I can define a log event to log to the library API. To define an event, I start with some identification values, such as tag, a label, and a description to my event. Then I can define a base log, which is a message that will be logged at every event invocation. Then I define the receivers for this event, which are all the organization APIs that will be registered to receive this event. In this case is the library organization. Finally, in the type value, I indicate that the event will be of type event log, and this is all I need to define an event of this type. Now, to invoke it, I can go here to my create a new library transaction, where we can see there I here define the message that I want to be sent to be logged on the API. And then I marshal this message so I can send it as a payload to the event. And now I can use the call event method from the events package of CC-Tools, indicating the tag of the event I want to call. And this is all I need to program an event using CC-Tools and CC-Tools demo. Here I can see also the code of the standard API which comes with CC-Tools demo, which already features method to automatically register for all events created on the chaincode, and also a method to handle these events when invoked. But since it's already programmed, we don't need to do anything on the API. Now I can test this event. I will open here my terminal, and you can see I have 2 terminal windows. In the first one, I'm connected to the machine where my library API is installed. So I can open its logs and follow it here. On the second window, I can make a call request to the admin organization to create a new library with the name National Library. So let's see what happens when I make the request. As you can see, we have a log for the event here. New library, name, national library. So with this, we could see how easy it is to define a log event using the CC-Tools event library. Now, with the first issue solved, I have a second one, in which I want all updates of tenants on books to be logged on a chaincode on a separate channel, accessible by the auditor. And while I'm technically able to directly invoke another chaincode for a transaction, the chaincode cannot write on the ledger if it is on a different channel. So to solve this issue, I can use the CC-Tools events. So we can now code the event we will use to solve this issue. We can start with most of the same options we used in the log event, such as tag, label, description, base log, and receivers. And on the receivers, we can also subscribe the admin organization to the event, since it's the one who has access to the second chaincode. For the type, we can now use the event transaction 1, and then we can specify the transaction we want to be called. Finally, since the transaction is for another chaincode, we need to specify the channel and the chaincode where it is located. If these options are left blank, it will assume it's from the same channel or chaincode as ours. To call our event, I have a transaction to update a tenant, where I can construct and marshal or payload to the transaction, and send it using the same method from the other issue. To demonstrate this event, I have here the tenant log as viewed by the audit organization. As you can see, it's blank now. If I access now the update tenant transaction using the librarian organization, I can now try to update the tenant and see if the log appears on the audit organization. So here it shows the book and the new tenant. Now, with the transaction submitted, I can go back to the tenant log and update it to see if the log appears. And as you can see, it correctly appears. We can try doing again. The same book, now the other tenant. Coming back here, I'll update. As you can see, the new tenant appears also on the log. So the event correctly worked and we solved our second issue. Now, for our final issue, I want to register every book that gets registered on the chaincode on an outside database accessible by an API. The problem is that calling an external API on a transaction like this can lead to some issues, such as multiple requests being done to the external API due to the nature of the endorsement of the network. To do this then, I'll use the custom event to solve this issue. I'll now code the event that will send a request to the external API. We start off with the same base configurations we had for the previous two events. For the type, this time we use the event custom one, which requires us to specify if the event is read-only, which means it won't write on the ledger. And finally, we can have the custom method that will be executed when the event is called. Developers are free to play around and do a multitude of things in the custom methods. By using the stub wrapper, it's even possible to access the chaincode and write on it, if the read-only attribute is set to false. But for the purpose of this issue we're trying to solve, this method will simply send the event payload to the external API. Then, to call this event, the register book transaction creates the payload for the event with the info that will be sent to the external database and uses the standard call event method we used before. To test this event, we have here an endpoint for our external API, which displays the books registered on the database. And as you can see, it's empty right now. So we can now go to the blockchain interface for the librarian and register book using the transaction I showed that will call the event. So we can put here our book title. And with this information, we can already register a book. So I will submit the transaction. And now we expect to see our book register on the external database. So if we go here and update the page, here you can see the register book which we just created on the blockchain reflected on this database using the event functionality. With this issue solved, we conclude our demo, where we are able to fully use the CC-Tools event functionality and see a taste of what's possible using it. Thank you for watching the video and you are welcome to join us on the community Discord.